Another multicart that I just could not resist, the 153-in-1 Ultimate NES Remix 1 and 2, or indeed Ultimate Famicom Remix 1 and 2. The title's obviously a play on the NES Remix or Famicom Remix games that have come out recently. This isn't a collection of multi-games, it is a collection of real, full, pirate NES or Famicom games. I got this on AliExpress, where else? It cost me about £13 or about $15. The NES version is a bit more expensive. Apparently I found out the NES versions of these cartridges are more expensive because they've got fake lockout chips in them that allow you to play the game on an unmodified original NES console, which is handy. Like a lot of the newer multicarts, it does have the battery backed up save feature, so you can save games on it that do save, but you can only save one game at once. I will talk about this a bit later on, but it does more or less work as advertised. Here is the complete games list. I will put a link to this down below so you can look at it in more detail if you want to. There is a good selection of games on here. There's some well-known classics and there's also some more obscure games and games that you don't usually see on multicarts. It's a good selection overall. All the games on here do seem to work like they're supposed to. I have seen other multicarts where certain games have issues or glitches, but everything on here, it does seem to do what it's supposed to do. Let's take a look at the games then. I'm not going to go through all the games on this cartridge, it'll probably take too long, but I'll give you a flavour of what's on here and pick out the more interesting titles. We have a pretty big selection of the usual suspects, games that turn up on multicarts a lot, or at least on modern multicarts, games you're probably familiar with, games that maybe aren't rare or hard to find, but games you're probably going to want to own and probably going to want to play if you haven't done before. So we've got all three of the Super Mario Brothers games, plus the original Mario Brothers arcade conversion. We've got the Adventure Island games, the Double Dragon games, 4 of the Turtles games. We've got Castlevania 1 and 2. We have an embarrassment of Mega Man games, all 6 of them, all of the main series on the NES, each one of course entirely unique and different from its predecessor. We've also got the 3 Contra games, the excellent Kirby's Adventure. We've got Sunsoft Batman and we've got Batman Returns. Plus a whole load of Robocop and Terminator games, which I'm not really a big fan of, but I'm sure someone out there likes them. We've also got Zelda 1 and 2 and DuckTales 1 and 2, great games, and they don't often turn up on multicarts, so it's good to see them on here. There's a good selection of shooters on here as well. There's the Gradius games, Gradius, Life Force and Parodius. There's 1942, 1943, Twin Bee, Legendary Wings, Gun-Knack and Gunsmoke, and some others too. It's a really good selection of shooters if you're into that kind of thing. We get a bit off the beaten track here into some less well-known games, cult classics maybe you want to call them, games you might not be familiar with unless you're a fan of the NES, but games that are certainly worth a look. There's a load of those sickeningly cute Taito platformers. We got Bubble Bobble 1 and 2, there's Rainbow Islands and there's Kiwi Craze, also known as the New Zealand Story. There's games like Kickle Cubicle, The Adventures of Lolo, some of the Bomberman games. There's the excellent Shatterhand, the no less excellent but far more expensive Little Samson. There's Bucky O'Hare, Journey to Silius, Monster Party, Kid Nicky, plus one of my real favourite NES games, or Famicom games I should say, because it's a Famicom exclusive, Splatterhouse 1, I can't pronounce it, the Japanese Splatterhouse game. It's good, honestly. There's also a few of the British or European releases. Again, you don't see these on multicarts very often, but we've got Lemmings, we've got Snake Rattle and Roll, which is a rare game, and there's Turrican, Cybernoid and North and South. There's also a few translations on these cartridges. These are games that were never officially released in English but have subsequently been translated by fans and made available online. You might have played them on emulators, you might have played them on a flashcart, but it's not until recently you've started to see them on these pirate multicarts. That means we get all 3 of the Final Fantasy games. The first one was, of course, officially released in English, but 2 and 3 weren't, so these are the translations. There's also, arguably the best RPG on the NES, Sweet Home. It's a good game, it's worth having a look at. And not really a translation per se, it's an unreleased beta version of the scrapped English version of the game, Earthbound, known as Mother in Japan, another candidate for best RPG on the NES. Of course, there's a lot of other games on here that I haven't mentioned, but there's 2 more that really stand out that perhaps don't fit into any of the above categories. I'm not going to pronounce this right, but there's Huang Di Zulu Zizan, something like that. This is an unofficial, unlicensed game, and unlike most unlicensed games, it's actually pretty good. Where exactly it comes from, when it was released, I don't know, and there isn't a lot of information about it on the internet, but it's surprisingly good fun. It's not the most polished game on the NES, and it has its flaws, but it's worth a look, and it's probably something you won't have played before. And finally, we have Happily Ever After. Now, this is a weird one. This is an unreleased beta of a game that was based on an animated movie of the same name. The movie was a flop, and the game was apparently scrapped. It was previewed but never released, and well, it's about as good as you would expect an unreleased beta based on a box office bomb to be, which is to say, not very, but it's a curio and it's worth a look. It's only recently dumped and made available online. I think it was only in 2016 that it was rediscovered, so it's worth spending 5 minutes with just for the novelty value alone. Overall then, there's a good selection of games on here. Whether you think this is the best Multicart or not would depend on your own opinions of what's on here and what's not, but it's arguably a very good selection, and there's some games on here that you don't see on other Multicarts. I suppose if I was being really fussy, I could complain about some of the games that were missing. There's no Castlevania 3, but I think there's technical reasons that mean you won't see that on a Multicart anytime soon. There's Gunnak, but no Zanak. There's no Wrecker. I mean, I could list a few games that aren't on here, but it's not bad. The only real downside to this cartridge is the same flaw that a lot of these Multicarts have, and it's the battery backed up save thing. As I said before, you can only save one game at once. If you try and save another game, it'll overwrite the first one. And of course, there's no warning about it. It doesn't let you know what's happening. You save another game, the original one's gone. And in fact, in some cases, you don't even need to actually save the game at all. You just start another game and it reinitializes the battery backed up memory, and you've lost your original save game just by selecting something else from the menu. Of course, this cartridge is officially licensed and endorsed by Nintendo. It's all completely above board and legitimate. No, it's not. It's a Chinese pirate Multicart, and I do have it on good authority that President of Nintendo, Tatsumi Kimishima, does cry bitter tears every night over the thought of its existence. But if you can stand to make Japanese people cry, and you can stand to wait 8 weeks for it to be delivered from Shenzhen or wherever it is it comes from, it's not a bad buy. If you've enjoyed this video, then please like, comment or subscribe. If you want to, you don't have to, I won't pressure you into it, but have a think about it, you know.